Well, yeah! Welcome to another edition of Life in the West. That is going to be our focus today, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to be looking at the American Western frontier. So, what does the American dream mean to you? That is what I want you to answer. Now, for today, we will not have your standard do now question, except for today, you will be doing all of your work in two different documents. Document number one, it says this: remote learning, life in the West. So you're going to be bouncing back and forth between the Google slide, a reading that's entitled Life in the West, as well as your worksheet. It says, magically, Life in the West. So we're going to be bouncing back and forth between different things, but I'll make sure I go over exactly what you are going to be doing. So right here it says, do now. In your opinion, what is the American dream? What does this phrase mean to you? So pause the screencast and take a minute to answer that question. Excellent. Welcome back. So let's take a look at our objective for today. By the end of class, I'll be able to identify why various groups of people moved west. By the end of class, I will be able to read and answer questions as well as create diagrams on the different groups of people wanting to explore the American dream by moving west. For this unit, our essential question is simply this: what were the motives, hardships, and legacies of the groups that moved west in the 1800s? You know, when you look at America, we have this concept: what is the American dream? And the American dream is really whatever you want it to be. It's the land of opportunity. That's what we've always been known as. And even if you look at the events that we've seen throughout the year, going all the way back to the early colonization of America with Jamestown and Plymouth and all the other colonies, why we fought the American Revolution, all of this was all based around opportunity. What is the best opportunity for us? Because for the American way of life is really we don't set boundaries. We try to break boundaries. And we always try to find a way to improve and make ourselves better. And this was no different going back to the 1800s. This new wide open landscape was open. And dozens of different cultures, ethnicities, religions, whatever you want to name, they were trying to find a way to make a lasting legacy. So now let's take a look at this next part. It's actually a song. So here you have a preview. This is a folk song. Now, folk songs typically tell a story. That's why it's called folk music. There's usually some history behind a song, or there's some kind of true meaning behind the song that give it that, well, basically the gist of the song. This song came out in the 1800s. It's called Sweet Betsy Pike. So what I want you to do is, as you listen to the song, I want you to answer these questions. What is the mood of the song? What is Sweet Betsy doing? What hardships did she face? Why should Sweet Betsy and other pioneers like her be willing to risk their lives for this type of hardship? And what legacy would ultimately she leave behind? So as you're listening to the song, I want you to answer those questions. So here comes the song. If it ever loads.
Oh, don't you remember sweet Betsy from Pike, who crossed the wide prairies with her lover Ike, with 2 yoke of oxen, a big yellow dog, a tall Shanghai rooster, and 1 spotted hog, and 2 One evening quite early they camped on the Platte, 'twas near by the road on a green shady flat, where Betsy sore-footed lay down to repose, with wonder he gazed on that Pike County rose, and out on the prairie one bright starry night, they broke out the whiskey and Betsy got tight. She sang and she shouted, she danced over the plain, made a great show for the whole wagon train. Sing toody-oo-riddy-oo-riddy-ay. Indians came down in a wild yelling horde, and Betsy was scared they would scalp her adored. Behind the front wagon wheel Betsy did crawl, fought the Indians with musket and balls, and toody-oo-riddy-oo-riddy-yay. They soon reached the desert where Betsy gave out, and down in the sand she lay rolling about, while I in great terror looked on in surprise. Then Betsy, get up, you'll get sand in your eyes, and toody-oo-riddy-oo-riddy-yay. Sweet Betsy got up in a great deal of pain and declared she'd go back to Pike County again. Then I keep aside, they finally embraced. She traveled along with her arm around his waist, and toody-oo-riddy-oo-riddy-yay. The Shanghai ran off and the cattle all died. The last piece of bacon that morning was fried. Poor Ike got discouraged and Betsy got mad. The dog wagged his tail and looked wonderfully sad. Some toody-oo-riddy-oo-riddy-yay. They passed the Sierras, the mountains of snow, till old California was sighted below. Sweet Betsy, she hollered, and I gave a cheer, saying, Betsy, my darling, I'm a made millionaire. Sing toody-oo-riddy-oo-riddy-yay. A miner said, Betsy, will you dance with me? I will that old hoss if you don't make me free. But don't dance me hard, they wanna know why. Doggone me, I'm tactful and strong, I'm alive. Sing toody-oo-riddy-oo-riddy-yay. Long Ike and Sweet Betsy got married, of course, but Ike was jealous, obtained a divorce, and Betsy, well satisfied, said with a shout, goodbye, big mummets, I'm glad you backed out. Sing toody-oo-riddy-oo-riddy-yay.
So take a minute and pause the screencast and go to answer those questions about good old Sweet Betsy. All right. So when you look at Sweet Betsy from Pike, this song was representative of a lot of what the early pioneers went through. You know, especially the ones that traveled along the Oregon Trail. If you look at what Sweet Betsy was talking about, it outlined a lot of the hardships that early pioneers faced, whether it was with Native Americans, drought, the different types of conditions you had to go through. I mean, if you think about it, they went through the grassy plains, the Rocky Mountains, the Sierra Madres, the deserts out of, above Nevada, that whole area. They went through basically every type of weather condition you could think of with little to no supplies. So when you look at this painting, what do you notice? Did anything from Sweet Betsy actually show up in this painting? So now what I want you to do, again, this is just previewing, what are features from the song that are represented in this painting? So take a minute, pause the screencast to answer these questions. What features from the song are in this painting? So now that you've identified some of the different things, what this lesson is particularly going to be focusing on is the legacy that these groups would have. We're going to focus on 8 different groups. We've already taken a look at the song Sweet Betsy, and this painting was known as the Westward. The course of an empire takes its way, glorifying the people who took risks and journeyed to the frontier. So now what you're going to do is there's a couple of terms and as well as concepts I would like you to define. So take a minute to define these terms or events in your own words. So pause the screencast to answer these questions. You can find the definitions right from the reading, which again is entitled Life in the West. Okay. Now that you've already answered that part of your document, let's take a look at the introduction and exactly what this overview of life in the West for these 8 groups is going to look like. The vast region that stretches from the Mississippi River to the Pacific Ocean is one of the most extraordinary landscapes on Earth. Tourists come from all over to see its mountains, canyons, deserts, and plains. To American settlers east of the Mississippi River, this great expanse of grasslands, mountains, and deserts was the West. For all of its beauty, the West was a challenging environment. Look at the names the settlers gave to its features. Where else in the United States can you find a mountain range called the Crazies, a scorching desert named Death Valley, a blood-red canyon called Flaming Gorge, or a raging river known as the River of No Return? Despite its graphic challenges, the West was never empty. Perhaps as many as 3 million American Indians lived there before Europeans arrived. These first Westerners were far more diverse in language and culture than Europeans who claimed their land. For most Americans in the early 1800s, however, the West was mostly a blank map. By 1850, it had become a land of opportunity. The West boasted wide open spaces and great wealth in timber, gold, silver, and other natural resources. It became a magnet for immigrants and for Easterners looking for a new start in life. As Americans began their westward trek, they created new markets for Eastern merchants. In time, the West changed the nation's economy and politics. It also created folklore of rugged individualism that has become a lasting part of American culture. Newspaperman Horace Greeley captured the growing enthusiasm for going west when he wrote, "If you have no family or friends to aid you, and no prospect opened to you, turn your face to the great West, and there build up a home and fortune." In this chapter, you will learn about 8 groups of people who turned their faces to the West in the first half of the 1800s. You will learn about their motives for heading west and the hardships they faced and the legacies they left behind. So now what I would like you to do is pause this screencast so you can watch this quick video clip about the westward expansion, because one of the things we're going to also focus on is, in fact, was our westward expansion an act of genocide? We looked at this briefly with the role of Jackson's presidency, and when he did the Trail of Tears. Now that we're encroaching on Native American lands, are we in fact creating an act of genocide? And yet, is it really described as an act of genocide? This is something we're going to discuss after we finish this unit of Life in the West. So pause the screencast to watch this quick video on Crash Course. Okay. Now that we've read the introduction, you've seen a quick thing on Crash Course, you've defined some terms, we've listened to a little bit of music. Now it's time to dive in and take a look at our different groups. So here comes the Google slide. In the Google slide, you have a series of text boxes. Now, again, you need to zoom in order to type your answers. Over here, to the little magnifying glass, you click that, click 100%. Then you can scroll down and type your answers. Magical. See? Magic. You can type your answers right in there. So, you're going to take a look at Lewis and Clark. We've already heard enough about him. How about Pikes Peak? What do we know about him? Or it's not really known as, it's known as Pikes Peak today, but his real name was Zebulon Pike. So what do we know about him? John C. Freeman. Who was he? What was his legacy? What were the groups of people, soldiers, settlers of California? Remember, California was there. We had thousands of Mexicans living there at the time. Native Americans have been here. So the West wasn't just big open space. There were people there. So who were the Californios? Another group. We have Asians. A lot of Asians came over here. But again, going back to all the other ones, we're going to look at different people known as mountain men. And who were they? You're also going to take a look at women. What was their role in the pioneering West? Because women played a great big role in this. You are also going to be looking at the 49ers, the Gold Rush. Hey, we have a football team. They're known as 49ers for a reason. It's because of the gold rush of 1849. And again, the Chinese. Chinese were also a big part of developing the West because they would be coming east to make a new life in what is known as today California or Washington or Oregon. They would settle all along the whole west coast of the United States. So you could take a moment, pause the screencast as you read these sections 1 through 9 and answer those questions. Then come back to the screencast when you are done. Now that you've answered the questions on each of the different groups, let's go back to our essential question. What were the motives and hardships of the legacies of the groups that moved west in the 1800s? So when we look at our document that we're answering questions on, oh look, here's the essential question. What I would like you to do in at least 2 paragraphs, or 5 to 7 sentences each, answer the question. You could even tie it back to the do now. What is the American dream? Because if you look at the question, they're very similar to one another. So how does the American dream tie into the motives, hardships, and legacies of these 8 groups? So if you pick at least 2 groups, you could do 1 group per paragraph. And that would make it a lot easier to answer this question. And that's how you could set it up. So pause the screencast so you could answer the essential question, which is, what were the motives, hardships, and legacies of the groups who moved west in the 1800s? All right, so now it's time for a little bit of fun. Processing. So we all like music, but like we said, when we looked at Sweet Betsy of Pike, well, it told a story about all the hardships that these people faced moving west. So what I would like you to do is I want you to create your own folk song on at least, what is it? Set number, on at least a couple of the groups. So here's what I would like. So you are going to create a song that details the experiences of people who moved west. This is what you need to include. Choose a tune that you know well for the melody. You could use Sweet Betsy from Pike. You could use that one. Or you could use I've Been Working on the Railroad, that song. You need to write 4 stanzas of 4 lines each. Each stanza should be about a different group of settlers. So remember, a stanza is a set number of lines in a particular song. Include all of the following items in each stanza. At least 1 motive for the group to move west, at least 1 hardship of the group faced, and at least 1 legacy they left behind. Give your song a title, and as well as the melody your song is sung, what melody your song is sung to. Here are some extra credit opportunities. Record yourself singing your own song. I don't care how bad you are. Don't worry, I'm not going to give this to American Idol. So that would be one way of extra credit. Extra credit. Record a video with lyrics with you singing the song. So a lot of you have some technical prowess. If you want to take a challenge, try it. Again, it's extra credit if you make a video. If you just do a recording and send me the recording, that's just plain extra credit. So what I'd like you to do is put your stanzas below this part that says answer below this line. So this is where you will type your work. This is a lot of information, but this is how the West was born in the United States. So take your time. I hope you enjoyed this. If you have any questions regarding life in the West, again, pause the screencast as you go. This way you can catch anything you may have missed the first time. If you're really stuck, reach out to me and I'll be happy to help you. Thanks, guys. Have a good day.